Alright, so what we're going to do here is look at how to set up not only a lattice deformer that you can use as a rig, like so. These clusters are a little hard to grab. So we could set up this lattice deformer as a rig, but also we can look at how we can have this lattice deformer. What this lattice deformer is actually deforming is a whole bunch of these little bristles here, and I can animate those. But if I don't want those to be on screen the entire time while I'm animating, or this is a rough example that I built from scratch just for the purposes of this demo. So if you had a lot more things like this happening, then you could save calculation in the viewport by hiding these and showing the placeholder object instead, which is wrapped around those other objects. Okay, so let's investigate this a little bit. Let me reset these. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide pretty much everything, and I'll duplicate this cylinder, and then I will hide the original one and bring back this group. So what I did here is I just made this group of little bristles using duplicate special, and they're all in a group. And normally this is not what you would want to do, but what I'm about to do is actually I'm going to duplicate that group so I don't delete the original, and I'm going to hide the original. And then this group, I am going to mesh and combine that, which again, normally that's the thing you normally don't want to do, because unless you're making a mesh watertight and all one piece, then the mesh combine is typically something to be avoided. But in this case, we're going to do that so that we can wrap this object around this group of objects, which now Maya is considering to be one object. And I do want to delete my history on that after I combine it. So I can call this bristles or something. And what I did in my first demonstration was I tried creating a lattice deformer. Now a lattice deformer will give you these lattice points and allow you to deform your mesh, and it will be pretty uniform deformation. And it's very good for modeling as well as animating things. And there's a variety of things you can do with a lattice deformer. You can manipulate an object. You can have an object go through it, although in this case that looks kind of awkward right there. But what we want to do is we're going to figure out a way to control these lattice points so that I can animate them around. And the first thing I'm going to do before I get to that is reduce the number of edges that my lattice has. So I'm going to go to my attribute editor. I'm going to look for the FFD2. The other one that originally was there is FFD1. And there's the lattice base and there's the lattice itself. And we actually want to look to the shape node of that lattice. So just look up here where it says shape, and this is where you can add or subtract divisions on your lattice deformer. So if I only had it be a square, then all I'd be able to do is do this. And sometimes that is what you want, because sometimes you just want the lattice to do pretty straightforward alterations to your model. In this case, I decided that in my first version, I wanted at least 3 going through the middle, so that I could have this like kind of bend a little bit like this. Maybe even have this like, you know, scale in or do something like that. So, you know, this will change depending on what you're trying to animate. But anyway, what I can do now, or what I did in the first version, is I can select any number of these lattice control points, and then I can go up to the Deform menu and look for this cluster. And this will create an object called cluster, which is represented by this little floating C object, which is pretty hard to grab. So you may want to end up kind of creating some sort of NURBS curve or whatever to control that lattice deformer, or sorry, to control that cluster. But now I can just grab that cluster and move whole chunks of my lattice deformer. Go crazy with that. And then I can do the same thing for the other components or other areas of my lattice deformer as I see fit. And I'll even do one for the very top. And now what I can do is I can just stack those clusters in order as if they're basically set up like a rig. So I will parent, in this case I will parent the top one on first. It will be the first one in the hierarchy, and then it'll work its way down to the bottom, because in the reason that I'm making this is so that there could be like something on top of this, like a scrubbing brush or one of those scrubbing bubbles or whatever, and I would want this to follow along from the top. And the magic of hierarchies makes that work. And now what I'd be able to do is animate the whole thing moving and parent constrain this to something. If I needed to, I could move the whole bottom, and then I could additionally move the very bottom there and kind of make this look like it's dragging along the ground. Now, so that's really all you need to do to set that up. Pretty simple once you know about the cluster feature. Now, what else I'm going to do here is, in case I feel like hiding this, if this was making my Maya go slow, I can make a placeholder object, basically, that would represent it without being as complicated. And we'll put that exactly on top. This was not exactly back into its original position. I'm gonna put this this cylinder back to where it was before. I'm going to select the cylinder, and then I'm going to select the bristles, which are again one object from earlier, and I'm going to apply a wrap deformer. And you should see the inputs on the cylinder. So if you see the input that says wrap on the other object, you did it backwards. And now if I hide the bristles, what should happen is when I move my clusters and move my lattice deformer, what's happening is that this cylinder is not being directly influenced by the lattice, but instead it's actually wrapping around the bristles, and since those are deforming, even though they're hidden, this looks like it's deforming as well. And so I can animate my scene with this placeholder thing in there. And honestly, at this point, I wouldn't even need to see my lattice if I don't want to. I could just animate purely with these clusters. And then, if I set keyframes and whatnot on these, which I can do right now as a little example here. I do have auto key. Let's not make this animation take too long here. It looks a little bit more gelatinous than it does bristly, but you get the idea. And if I just hide this and bring back my bristles, they are animated as well. And you can see right there, Maya was slowing down when I pressed play the first time, so that's one of the reasons why you'd want to do this in the first place, especially if your actual example was more complicated than this one. So that's just a little dive into using deformers for animation and using clusters to control them, and also a little trick there where we can view one object while we're animating and then have that animation still being applied to something else that's hidden during the animation process. Hope that's useful. Alright, see you next time.